welcome to another episode of our Innovation Live. Laura, welcome again as co-host.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Great
to be back.
Same spot.
I know, all over the place.
We have special guests. Who are they? Maybe you can do the introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're welcoming back. So thank you, gentlemen, for round two. We're welcoming back Curt Gemme and Mark Duclos from Sentry Commercial. So Curt, let's start with you. Tell us, who you are and what do you do for Sentry?
Thanks, Laura. So my name is Curt Gemme, and I am Director of Business Development for Sentry Commercial, which covers brokerage on the industrial and office side, and then also our construction management and property management divisions. So I work closely with Mark to help the company grow, and we were happy to be guests sort of as this crisis was unfolding, and I think we had a lot more high-level ideas and thoughts as to where things were going to go. So it's nice to be back after, I think, a good 45, maybe 60 days now, where we can
unbelievable how much time. Laura, it's got to be over 60 for us, right?
I think that's true, because, we were in late March here. So at that point in time, from a company standpoint, we really didn't have a lot of answers to questions. We didn't know what the business was going to look like. We didn't know if we were going up or going down. And I think, and Mark can talk to this a little bit, but I think we're very fortunate that, our company was set up to work remotely, to work virtually with our technology and so forth. And we've spent the last 60 days going full steam on what we call our technology stack. And that includes our CRM and our database. And then we added and launched a YouTube channel, which we're hosting now, virtual tours of properties, which is something we always had on the back burner. We fired that up, moved it forward. And, I think we're happy that we've closed the deals. We lost some deals in manufacturing space. Aerospace obviously got hit hard, but it opened up new opportunities. And some of those companies have been able to pivot and start, retooling and making products and so forth for the needs that are here today. So I would say, we're cautiously optimistic. And Mark, you want to talk to that? You're getting a lot of input and seeing a lot of activity out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be back, you guys. I think the subject back then was co-working space, right? And so that's kind of evolved just to the whole idea of what's an office space look like. So we can speak to that. But to Curt's point, listen, everybody, I like to say, yes, by the way, don't look now. It's been roughly 75 days. So if you close your office in mid-March, I know when we closed our office, it was the day before Friday the 13th. So it was March 12th. And I think I gave an update to the company back a couple of weeks ago. Don't look now, it's been 60 days. So we're 75 days and going here. And the nice thing is back on last week on March 20th, we saw the state open partially. As Governor Lamont said, we were already 60% open before we hit the 20th. So that was the good news. And we're starting to see companies start to open back up again. We were fortunate to be part of our services on the brokerage advisory side is to be in the industrial side as well. And there's no question the industrial side was affected significantly, but was affected less than the other sectors in real estate. And the nice thing to see, and since last week, is we're starting to see some optimism. And I will say I was on a talk earlier this morning, and I did say that, listen, that the 20th of March optimism has been quickly replaced with the June 20th optimism. So it's like us as human beings are always looking for that next date. So we had a full enjoyment of 1 week of the opening of the state. Now we're like, come on, where's June 20th? So, but we've been good. We've, as Curt said, we're fortunate. We've got 4 different divisions. We've got a brokerage advisory, construction management, property management, and we had opened literally a couple of weeks before before this all hit, a residential services group, which is a residential investment group. So that was not great timing, but we've been able to use all 3 silos, and all 3 have been affected in different ways.
Oh, wow. Well, listen, we have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. I know Laura will as well. We've part of it's our own experience with our own company. Part of it's just kind of thinking about, what this means for Hartford community, what it means across, Connecticut as well. I guess, 60 days, Mark, you killed me. That's a long time. Now, I think, if I were to like open up Stephen Covey's book, I don't know. Somebody on here or who's listening probably knows the rule, but I think he says it takes like 6 or 7 weeks to form habits.
That's true. 7 weeks, I think. Yeah.
7 weeks. Yeah, I've seen a few numbers around there. Okay, we're way past that 7-week habit, but we're still human beings, and we like to be with other human beings. Mark, what do you think? What habits have changed about work that we'll never return to over this period of time?
So let's qualify it first to say nobody really knows exactly. I think we can assume a few things, but the effect on the real estate markets, which is, of course, because of the habits that have changed or not, there are some that we could say have changed, right? So this whole idea of using Zoom, obviously that we're on right now, or GoToMeeting or Teams or whatever it might be that you use, I don't think that's something that's here just temporarily, right? So we may not be using it to the extent that we're using it right now, but certainly we're going to be using it. And I think companies have realized, listen, if we can do quick updates and you can hop on a Zoom call, you have quick meetings and things like that, that's got to be something that's around permanently. Well, that's a portion of their use of their office space. And if that's just one little segment that they're not using, how many other segments aren't they using? I think there was the structure of companies and the trust of leadership of companies didn't allow sometimes for a home work at home. And by that, I mean, they weren't set up electronically. They didn't know maybe the avenues of electronics and the virtual, the tools that they could use to work virtually. Well, and by the way, I'm not sure they had the metrics or the trust to be able to measure employees, right? So you either didn't trust that the employees were going to do their work, or you didn't have the metrics that could measure how the employees do the work. They all of a sudden now are saying, you know what, it's working. And guess what? If it's working, then the next question is, how much can we do outside of what was our traditional office? So those are things that I think are gonna be permanent. It's just to what extent. We all know that Facebook and Twitter have all come out and said you're going to work there permanently, and at least till the end of the year. I think we're not going to know exactly what the effect is, because right now the idea is people aren't even sending people back to work in their offices because they don't believe their offices are ready, right? And so it's like, stay home, relax, do your work at home, wait till we get our place ready. And oh, by the way, what's ready is totally evolving all the time, the definition of what's ready. But there's no question there's more functions that are going to be done at home, just what we're doing right now.
Yeah. I agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, Curt, go ahead.
Well, I agree with Mark in that concept. So, we really deal with two factors when we look at this. One is, as a real estate company, we can think about and help people determine, how do you physically restructure space? Where do you put desks? How do you put, travel patterns, signage, all of that? And that's really a small part. And I think what Mark speaks to is that sort of psychological safety issue. Is, even though some of the places have made modifications, it's a challenge for leadership to understand how to bring their people back, and where are the thought patterns, where are the thought processes. So I think when big companies, like Facebook and Google say, oh yeah, work at home, I think it's because they don't have a solid plan from a psychological perspective as to how to reintegrate people, because that's a whole new game that nobody really has a solid playbook on. So I see that being a bigger challenge than physical altercations, or modifications to space. And so herein lies the next sort of, I'll call it, crisis, and that is, how do we support our people from a leadership standpoint and help them reintegrate into the workforce? And that's the part that Mark says we're not going to have a vision on that for months.
Right. See what the new reality is. We were half joking, half not, where it's, would you feel more comfortable meeting with people with masks on in a room spaced, 6 to 10 feet apart? Or would you feel more comfortable meeting with your team at a park, in a field, outside, where the air quality, it's a different way of thinking. And my personal gut reaction is, I'll go to the park. So it's going to be interesting. And I think everyone's going to be different. And how does leadership deal with that? And, I think it will be a slight trust crisis we see.
Well, Laura, and to that point, how does leadership get that information, right? So when they start talking about, to Curt's point, restructuring their office, And we, as he said, and you just reemphasized, it's really not as much restructuring the office. It's about the people that are coming back to the office. And like you said, if you've got somebody that's saying, no, I'd rather be in the park, how does the leadership measure that? What are they doing right now to measure? Because it's really about employee wellness.
Mm-hmm.
If you dial back to March 1 and somebody said, well, my employees really care about their HVAC systems. I mean, do you think that, do you think that it was, no. Well, guess what? They do now.
Right,
Right?
they do.
How do you measure that, right? How do you measure what's important to the employees? I mean, we're seeing as deep as supply chains on the industrial side with manufacturers who have done business with all different countries, right? And significantly a lot of in China. But now you're seeing them start to measure the quality of life of the companies and the countries that those companies are in. And if the quality of life isn't there, they're not necessarily sending the supply chain there, because they want to make sure that the quality of life is respected, because then you've got healthy people, which obviously can work and then ship it. So it's even getting down to supply chains coming overseas. Never mind your office in Hartford, Connecticut.
Right.
Yeah, well, we saw that with we've seen that with a number of our startups in our incubator in our building. I think if the company was this valuable, then it's like you kind of translate it over to this new world like this. Like one of our startups had a service where, say, you get underwritten for life insurance. If you've gone through that process of having an examiner come to your house, take your blood, all the fluid, his value prop was, why should you have a lot of stranger come into your house? And my question to him was, yeah, but how much does it cost? He's like, well, it's a little more we want to schedule people to go to Instacares down the street. And I said, well, is it cheaper or more expensive? Well, it's a little more expensive. Well, our carrier's going to pay. Wow, today, this may be the only way you get sell life insurance. So,
absolutely.
It's interesting. It's really, what was nice is now suddenly you didn't know it was a need, but today, as you mentioned, HVAC, yeah, it's a big issue, big question. That was one of the first items on the list of the manual that came out in our company on how to come back to work was explanations of cranking up the air conditioning.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine that whole cycle of the life insurance thing? It's like, okay, you want me to come to where? Okay, I'll come there. So what are they doing for their cleaning? How is their waiting room? Is their waiting room 6 feet apart? Is it 10 feet apart? When do they clean every day? Do they wash the chair every time? It's like, oh my God.
Well, and I'm sure from a building standpoint, like how you market your building has got to have changed or will change over the next 6 to 7 months, right? Like, as you say, it's how hard is it to get in? How big are the elevators? How many elevators? How long does it take now to go up 15 floors?
There's no question. I mean, and it will. I kind of pause there just because we're not sure exactly what that looks like, right? Again, we need the input from the users, and the users are the ones that are going to dictate that. The employees are the ones that are going to dictate that. And so, what we might think is not a hotspot, that's probably a bad term these days, but what we might think is a significant feature. Some employees might say, you know what, we really don't care about it. And then others, like elevator, yes, we care about it. How are you going to get, if you're going to be on the, not pick on a building, but we're sitting right across the street from City Place. If you're going to be on the 27th floor City Place, how are you going to get people up there again safely?
Right.
Yeah. It really brings in the whole concept of density. And, we overall have been going through a smaller square footage allowance per employee that comes into an office. Where it used to be 200 square feet per person, when you go up with an office requirement, that figure had gotten down as low as 125 or 100 square feet per person. And so now, you're looking at, okay, we need more office space. So between the jettison of people working from home and the idea that we're going to a larger office environment, back to private offices, that whole concept, it's going to be interesting to see how it all falls out, because it's definitely not going away, in the near term, in terms of that.
Curt, you've been really involved in Shauna's Upward Labs smart building effort, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
How has it, what kind of opportunities are coming up either with applications for startups you've seen there, or how does that shift or create new opportunities for companies in the coming months?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because they do the property tech, the prop tech companies, and they do the startups there. And they had two companies, Aura Air, which was an air filtration organization out of Israel, and they have a wall-mounted air purification system that has successfully removed a high level of the bacterial type products. I'm not suggesting it will remove the COVID virus, but they have a filtration system that's patented that has a copper lining in it, and it helps to just kill that stuff. So improved air quality pre-COVID was an important thing, and they were doing tests in hospitals as well as hotels and having great success with it. Now they're sort of thrust into this environment where air quality is important. I mean, we had a client, a deal that we did at a building in Hamden. Client was in a couple thousand square feet. They got a call, I think it was from World Bank, right, Mark? That said, hey, listen, we have a company that we want to get growing fast. Their product is UV UV light in line in your HVAC system for hospitals. So here's a company that's in 2,000 square feet. World Bank says, hey, we want you to grow. We want you to open up 10 facilities. So we signed, they looked at space on a Monday. On Wednesday or Thursday, we were signing a lease for 20,000 square feet. And so Aura Air over at Upward Labs, same type of thing, air filtration. And then the whole, there's a Van Gogh is another company over there, a startup, and they were doing the entry stuff. So facial recognition, sign in for the entry. You're not signing into a book. And so they create a database of where people are in the building via the camera systems, and so they can tell from a travel perspective. And I know contact tracing is a new word that we're becoming more more exposed to, and so so they've got interesting companies in the prop tech space that are growing. My question to you, Paul, because you're obviously doing the Hartford ecosystem relative to startups. Are these companies? What's their mindset? I mean, are they ready to pivot and get ready for what would be considered a new sort of growth phase? What are you seeing with that?
Well, again, our focus, it's interesting. Mark, as you mentioned, each sector is different. So certain sectors of the insurance business have just gotten demolished here. If you were in the commercial lines business, sort of mainline, business continuity, terrible. There are subsegments where business has gone tremendously well. I talked to a broker who was, they were kind of set for the perfect storm. They had taken all their business digital. They were able to sort of assess the market quickly, and they pivoted to writing commercial business in the construction business and the trucking business. And those are two sectors that you can't hire enough truckers, and construction workers have a ton of work at the moment. So it's been very specific. Now I think for the startups there's much more demand from the carriers for all of this technology. It's the challenge is these interest rates have just are putting tremendous pressure on the insurance companies. So insurance is a weird business. It's the more you look at an insurance line of business with a microscope, everything looks like an expense. So not so experienced executives, or even experienced executives who are experienced, sometimes start to want to burn the company down. So where do you have money still to put into innovation, because you need this to get to the future? So Mark, to your point, I think jury's a little bit out. I think the valuation of these startups, sort of series, all the way up to Series A or maybe B, I think have actually gone up. B and C, probably the valuations are coming back a little bit. But we're working hard this summer, to connect a lot of these startups that have put time into the Hartford area with carriers. So again, we'll come back and have this discussion in another 4 months and see if we were bold enough to make the right calls. I'm bullish on it, Curt. In short, I think there's some really good opportunity. I just think we got to get a lot of people to sort of think carefully as they maneuver through a crazy pandemic, recession. I don't want to use the D word, but massive recession. How does this all sort of, how are we going to get stuff going again? I don't know.
Well, we we need to get the community back. I mean, that's what Shauna's setup over there is about, community. And I know they did a quick transition because they're coming back online now, and some of their common space or their gathering space they've put into sort of a private office concept, and then they did a relayout with social distancing. It's a big challenge for them, but I think at the core of their business and opportunity, like your incubator, is these guys thrive on community, and so we need to maintain community, whether that be through Zoom or virtual meetings. But Hartford still being the host, it's important. Mark, I don't know if you can talk to that community side of things a little bit.
Well, not much more than what you just said. I guess my thought was actually more the listening to that conversation. What I've found and what I hope is there's no question we've got crisis. Obviously, that's the obvious, but it's interesting. My opinion, and you use the word opportunity, Paul, I think there's an incredible opportunity here. And I hope that the companies are kind of going down this two paths. One is the crisis path, and what do we need to do to answer the crisis? What do we need to do to make sure our employees are safe? What do we need to do for all those things? And the other is, where's our opportunity? Because I do think this is such a crisis that has exposed inherent weaknesses in companies that companies knew were there all along, that we just never did, we're included, that never took the time to fix, right? And all of a sudden this whole storm hit and we're like, oh man, I should have done that 6 months ago, right? So we have those things, and we got the opportunity to actually, I think, if we can think enough and execute, we can actually accelerate our companies at a time we never would have been able to do the acceleration without this crisis. I really believe that, and there's no question. There's a balance. So you have the time that you have to have the wherewithal to handle the crisis, and at the same time be able to accelerate your company by using technologies. If there's anything that came out of this, it's technology. I've never used the word tech stack before. Sentry Commercial has had a tech stack since 1991. We started off with technology. The theory was whatever you did in the office, you had to be able to do on the road. All right, so that was our theory because we collaborate. So now the question is, how do we use technology to accelerate ourselves into a much better company? That's going to take some pain with these companies because obviously that could cost employees. All right, it could cost space. Right? Because you might not need the bodies and you might not need the space. Is going to be an incredible boom to technology. It should be a boom to technology. And I'm curious to see how that unfolds. So there's going to be, in my opinion, some major pain, because there should be some major pain, because at the other end of it, I think we're going to come out so much better.
No, I totally agree. And listen, thank you for all you're doing for the community. Mark, do you want to talk to us about some of the resources you made available to the community?
Yeah. So we, without giving a pitch, we started off the company as a collaborative company. So the entire philosophy, again, built on technology, because technology facilitated collaboration, sharing of information. So in 1991, believe it or not, computers, actually networking of the computers was not common for small businesses, and it was just starting to become common, a lot less expensive to do. So the idea was collaborate and share information. And we've been able to leverage that moving forward to just collaboration of the community. And when I say the community, it's a collaboration of the real estate community. It's anything to do with commercial real estate that we hope that we've created a foundation that allows non-Sentry Commercial allied type of industries to call us and use our platform for their benefit. That doesn't mean hiring us. That means things like our website. You can use our website as a resource, as an example. The things that we talked to earlier and Curt mentioned here is that we've got a link on our website. If you go to the homepage, it's sitting there right on the homepage that you can hit and look at what maybe your office and what your manufacturing should look like, right?
Yeah, and I'll actually, for those of you watching, I'm just popping up and Mark, Curt, I'm actually popping up your webpage, projected changes after COVID. So you have best practices, recommendations for the workforce. What else could I find here?
In that document or on the website? In the document. On the website, so we obviously will give market news, not just about our deals. We'll give market news about other deals that are in the market, other information in the market, trends in the market. We'll give properties that are available in the market. So anything really having to do with construction management, property management, anything having to do in all best practices. In this particular case, the last 2 months has been a lot of that has been best practices, and brokerage advisory as well. And so anything that people would need as a resource to be able to execute their business better, we're populating that on this website. Now, and if somebody does go to our website and they say, it'd be great if you could provide this resource, we're happy to look at that and start providing that resource as well. We wanted to. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Mark. I'm just scrolling through this page just on office space recommendations. This is great. This is I actually looked at Teslas that they put up, but you've got a very significant set of recommendations here and guidelines. It's terrific work.
We're thinking of moving to California, our own manufacturing operation.
Thank you. And evolving, and that's an example. That's an evolving document. That this is such a fluid situation. It was. I remember early in the game, it was like I would do a panel, or I would be doing an interview, and then that interview would be posted 2 weeks later, and I'd be like, "Oh my God, I sound like a moron." Things were moving so quickly, right? It's like, what is this guy thinking? It's that cycle has slowed down, but it is still a pretty fast moving cycle. So we keep things like that, and you can see in remarks on our website, and you can see in market news. We try to keep that fresh content, and this document will be revised, and so it's a working tool for our clients, our brokers, other brokers, and other people's clients.
Oh, this is excellent, and we'll put a link up to this when we promote the recorded version of the program. But Laura, what other questions do you have for our guests while we have them on?
I'll kick it over to Curt. He seems like he was about to add in here.
That's not atypical of me, by the way. So, to Mark's point, the whole concept of collaboration, it means different things to different people, and it's a culture and a philosophy, and it really drives our purpose, and the reason why we care so much about our community. What Mark was referencing is from a collaboration standpoint. I worked on a project with Upward Hartford to shore up their data on the side of property owners and property managers throughout the state of Connecticut, because they're doing the property tech thing and they're working with startups, and they didn't have a solid list or data set on building owners and building property managers. And so I worked with Greg Flynn over there, and we were able to help them populate a list so that when they turned to their startups, they look and feel now like they've got the data, and that's what those startups need. They need access to contacts. And that was something, that I said, hey, listen, we've got the data, we pay for that data, and we'd love to share that with you on a collaborative basis. And that's not something that we charge for. It's not our business, but it does help Hartford as a whole, sort of jump to that next level. We want, Nassau Re to succeed at the innovation space, and we want Upward to succeed at their prop tech and medical tech groups. And so, that's the essence of Sentry Commercial. And that's the essence of the company that Mark, started 35 years ago. And so we're just excited to be able to continue to plow forward with that vision.
And that's where, and that just to piggyback that. And so that's an example of where, yes, we're here, we support the commercial real estate community, which is any allied service in the community, which then permeates to our community, right? The companies.
We love it. So I think what you're doing is great. And Curt, we are going to get you on talking about the personality mapping. I've been using your tool like crazy. It's terrific.
Scary.
What'd you say?
I said scary. When he gave me my personality, I was like, oh my good. I gave it to my wife. Without prefacing. I said, who do you think this is? She goes, that's you with a T.
Hey, Curt, when you get a moment, do you mind sending me Paul's? Thanks.
I can send you. Listen, it's one word that sums it up. It's called awareness.
Uh-huh.
If you're aware of yourself, then you can begin to create awareness about people around you. And Paul, yeah, we can have some more fun with that. I'd love to do that.
Absolutely. Well, let's see, sentrycommercial.com. We'll put the link and we'll put the page up there. Anything else, Mark, we could, you want to tell people about, have them be aware of here over the next month or so?
Listen, no, I think we're probably in a mode right now that's going to be through the next month. I think we're starting to see some nice things. I just walked by a restaurateur downtown and asked the manager, how's it going? He goes, we're seeing things pick up big time. And so that's an optimistic note. So it's been a battle for everybody. I don't want to minimize that by any means, but I think if people can pivot and turn it into a positive opportunity, I really urge them to do that if you're not doing it already. And I leave it out there again, not to hire Sentry Commercial necessarily, but if you need some guidance, if you need some help, you need to be pointed in certain resources like Curt was able to do in his example. We are there to point you in the right direction. So feel free to reach out, and we're here to help you.
Excellent, Laura. Let's see, who do we have next? Who's next on our program?
Yeah, so this coming Tuesday, we have Lanaya Nelson and Carrie Ann Nadu talking about Ometry and their company there. So we look forward to that as well. But, before we sign off today, I just want to thank you both for being an ally to Nassau Reimagine and the Hartford community.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you.
Technology came off without a hitch, Paul. Fantastic.
We'll have you back on in another 75 days.
All right. Love you guys. Take it easy.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.